and I see the bill down right there. Well, mountain lions found me there waiting and set me on an eagle's back.
They were taken to the island of Terra Buena for the entire Ortega family to judge them. At the trial, it was revealed that Tomaso Ortega, brother of Luis, actually engineered his brother's assassination, using Aubrey as a guided missile. Civil war broke out among the Ortegas. Aubrey and Promise made their escape.
Hey! And it said, fly
I just created a character who was black. It was no real significance. It certainly never really entered in any of the plots. Characters have made comments on the fact that Aubrey Nye was black, you know, that nigger, this or that, but it doesn't really matter that much. His color is certainly of far less importance than just his humanity. When I did the book Street Lethal, the sales department at Ace Books felt that if they put a black man on the cover, people wouldn't pick the book up. Now, they were probably correct. You know, this was probably not an hallucination on their part.
It's very hard to say who your audience actually is. You get letters, and the people who wrote the many fan letters to Dahlgren, they said, "You're writing about me. You're writing about my friends. You're writing about people that I know about," which was a very warming thing to hear. And at the same time, the much rarer letter from the people who didn't like it said, well, these are the people that you're writing about are not people I'm interested in. I don't want to know about these people. Well,
most black science fiction novels did not, for a long time, until very recently, have blacks represented on the cover. And I guess the only weakness I could say in terms of the artists individually is that they have not done a lot to represent themselves to the black community as being black, because I feel that there's a large untapped market of black people that would be into science fiction and write science fiction and realize that they could if they knew that there were others who already were.
Who is this man?
James Scott.
It's 3:30 a.m. and you're tuned to listener-sponsored radio WBAI, and this is Night Shift.
Takes place, dodging lays every day on a high-speed chase. They're on to him. That's okay, cause he knows it. This is his lifestyle and job, cause he chose it. When there's danger, rearranges, changes, tone, disguises,
Who is James Scott? And those are the posters you've been seeing up around the city.
What posters?
The posters that say, who is James Scott?
I haven't seen any posters.
With the hotline.
What hotline?
Anyway. Who is James Scott? And we're the only people in New York right now who know. Well, obviously James Scott is me, but in this story takes place in the year 2089, and James works for an organization called the Planetary Law Enforcement Agency. Now, in this somewhat optimistic view of the future, there are no more wars, so technology has become sort of the state of art, and this is a company called Wedgecraft that actually is connected to the PLEA in that they design all the spacecraft and hardware that the PLEA uses.
The year 2089. A shuttle leaves Earth en route to Wedgecraft. Wedgecraft, a vast space station in orbit around Earth. Wedgecraft, an industrial nation to itself.
Science fiction is a great forum for black people to make statements about their existence and the history of their existence on the planet. And that it's the storylines and what happens in them that are more, let's say, political than actually James's character himself. He's a product of his world. And the stories really make more of the statements that have to do with how I feel about being black. There aren't any black secret agents. There never were. I can't think of one, except maybe that man Bolton with Fred Williamson. But like, I don't even want to admit to knowing that that
Blacks always
exists.
get killed in science fiction.
Yeah, they do, big time. Paul Winfield, 3 times, 3 films, all of them bad.
Well, the interesting thing about Paul Winfield seems to have made a career dying to protect white people in movies. I mean, we talk about The Serpent and the Rainbow, or Terminator, or Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, or Damnation Alley. You know, he's just over and over again, Paul Winfield has died. In the movie Damnation Alley, that was the worst, one of the worst cases of it. You have this movie, and it stars Jan Michael Vincent and George Peppard and Paul Winfield, and they're traveling across the desert, this atomic wasteland, and this big, motorized, fallout shelter, right? And they go into, I think, Salt Lake City or Las Vegas, something like this, and in the ruins of the city, they find, like, the last living human female, right? It's a white woman. So I was sitting there in the audience, I said, oh my God, they've got to kill Paul Winfield, because they're not going to act as if he's not interested in her sexually, and they're not going to allow him to compete with her, to compete with Jan Michael Vincent and George Peppard. So the only conceivable solution was kill him. And 5 minutes later, he gets eaten by giant cockroaches.
It's very important to me now that we have ourselves represented in the future in positive roles, in leadership roles, in roles where we're not the second or underling character or a stereotype, or like Total Recall, where we have gold teeth and drive a cab and turn out to be mutants and traitors, I mean, I've seen that so much, I could name countless films.
The most important change in black involvement in science fiction has actually come in film. I mean, there are a number of directors like John Carpenter and James Cameron who seem to have gone almost out of their way to make sure that blacks are included in their futures. I think that this is a very promising thing and a very positive thing, because film reaches so many people. Television, there's still a lot of problems. Blacks are simply not allowed to act and to be heroic leading figures in television. The audience just doesn't accept it.